Picture this. You're staring at your phone, finger hovering over the send button. The message is typed, ready to go. But something stops you. You delete it. You put the phone down. You choose silence. Most people think silence is weakness. They're wrong. Silence is the most underestimated superpower in human psychology. It's the difference between reacting and responding, between desperation and dignity, between being forgotten and being unforgettable. Today we're diving into the psychology of strategic silence, not as manipulation, but as self-mastery. Because when you learn to control your need to speak, you unlock a level of personal power most people never discover. Think about the last time someone went completely quiet on you. Not angry quiet, calm quiet. It probably drove you crazy, didn't it? You wondered what they were thinking, feeling, planning. That's the power we're exploring today. This isn't about playing games or manipulating others. This is about understanding that sometimes the most profound communication happens without words. It's about recognizing that your silence can speak volumes about your character, your confidence, and your emotional intelligence. We're going to break down exactly how this works, why it's so effective, and most importantly, how to use it to become a more centered, confident version of yourself. Here's something fascinating about human psychology. We're wired to fill empty spaces. When there's silence in a conversation, we feel compelled to fill it. When someone stops texting us, we start overanalyzing. When the attention we're used to receiving suddenly disappears, our minds go into overdrive. This is called the vacuum effect, and it's incredibly powerful. When you choose silence over explanation, you create a psychological vacuum that the other person's mind desperately wants to fill. They start imagining scenarios, replaying conversations, searching for clues. But here's the key. This only works if your silence comes from a place of genuine peace, not passive aggression. True silence isn't punishment. It's self-preservation. It's choosing your energy over endless explanations. Think about the people in your life who command respect without saying much. They're not mysterious for the sake of it. They simply don't feel the need to explain every thought, justify every action, or seek validation for every decision. Their silence speaks to their confidence. When you stop responding immediately, stop explaining yourself constantly, something interesting happens. The other person is forced to confront their own behavior. Your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting their actions back at them. Suddenly, they're the ones wondering if they said something wrong. They're the ones checking if their message went through. They're the ones feeling uncertain. The dynamic has shifted not through manipulation, but through your refusal to participate in toxic patterns. Here's what most people don't realize. The person who needs to explain themselves constantly holds less power in any relationship. When you're always justifying, defending, or seeking approval, you're essentially saying, "Please validate me." But when you're comfortable with silence, you're saying, "I don't need your validation to know my worth." This shift is profound. It transforms you from someone who reacts to someone who responds thoughtfully, from someone who chases to someone who attracts, from someone who needs to someone who chooses. Choosing silence when you want to speak is like emotional strength training. It builds your capacity to sit with discomfort, to resist impulses, to think before you act. This is what emotional maturity looks like in action. Most people are slaves to their immediate emotions. Something happens, they react instantly. They text back immediately, defend themselves reflexively, explain their position desperately. But true power lies in the pause, that space between stimulus and response where you choose your next move. When you practice strategic silence, you're developing what psychologists call distress tolerance, the ability to survive difficult emotions without making them worse through impulsive actions. This skill transfers to every area of your life. In your career, you become the person who thinks before speaking in meetings. In your relationships, you become someone who doesn't escalate conflicts. In your personal growth, you become someone who can sit with uncomfortable truths without immediately trying to fix or change them. This isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming centered. There's a huge difference between someone who's silent because they don't care and someone who's silent because they care enough about themselves to choose their battles wisely. Here's a counterintuitive truth. The less available you are, the more valuable you become, not through artificial scarcity, but through genuine self-respect. When you're not constantly explaining yourself, people become genuinely curious about your thoughts and perspectives. This creates what I call earned attention. Instead of demanding to be heard, you become someone worth listening to. Instead of fighting for respect, you command it naturally. Instead of chasing connections, you attract the right people who value your depth. Mystery isn't about being secretive or playing hard to get. It's about having a rich inner life that doesn't need constant external validation. It's about being selective with your energy and generous with your presence when you choose to give it. People are drawn to those who seem complete on their own. When you're not constantly seeking validation, reassurance, or attention, you project an energy that's both calming and intriguing. You become a refuge in a world full of noise. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of strategic silence is what it does for you internally. When you stop trying to control others through constant communication, you start developing true self-control. When you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you start understanding yourself better. Silence gives you space to process your emotions instead of just reacting to them. It allows you to distinguish between what you think you need to say and what actually needs to be said. It helps you recognize the difference between productive communication and emotional vomiting. This transformation is visible to others, even if they can't pinpoint what's changed. You carry yourself differently. You're less reactive, more responsive. You're less desperate for approval, more secure in your own judgment. You're less scattered, more focused. The person who masters strategic silence becomes someone others naturally turn to for wisdom. Why? Because they've learned to listen to themselves and others before they speak. Their words carry weight because they're carefully chosen, not carelessly thrown around. This isn't about becoming a silent, brooding type. It's about becoming someone whose words matter because they're backed by thoughtfulness, whose presence is valued because it's not taken for granted, whose opinion is sought because it's not constantly offered. So here's your challenge. For the next week, practice the pause. Before you send that text, ask yourself, is this coming from a place of love or need? Before you explain yourself, ask, do they actually need this information or do I just need to be understood? Start small. Count to 3 before responding to messages. Take a breath before defending yourself. Choose one situation each day where you practice strategic silence instead of immediate reaction. Remember, this isn't about becoming cold or disconnected. It's about becoming centered and intentional. It's about developing the confidence to be misunderstood rather than exhausting yourself trying to be constantly understood. Your silence isn't empty, it's full of self-respect. Your pause isn't hesitation, it's wisdom. Your choice not to explain isn't rudeness, it's boundaries. Master this and you'll discover that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. You'll become someone who doesn't need to prove their worth because they know it. And that kind of quiet confidence? That's absolutely magnetic. Start today. Your future self will thank you for choosing strength over explanation, peace over proving, and wisdom over words.